Hello, fellow Rebel Capitals. Hope you are well. I've got my good buddy here back after a long time, Mr. Gerald Celente. Can't wait to get into this. It's never a dull moment. And Gerald, we've got a lot to talk about, buddy.
So great being on with you. I miss being on with you, and thank you for all that you do. I mean, it's so hard. Your videos, by the way, are terrific, and I've been watching them. But there's one comment I have to make.
Yeah.
They started talking about what was being reported in the Wall Street Journal, and they showed the Wall Street Journal, and it was about that thick. It wasn't the Wall Street Journals now. I call it the Wall Shit Journal. It's about that thick.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that it's so hard now to find good information.
Yeah.
Because journalism is dead. It's dead. And so thank you for all that you're doing. I appreciate being on with you.
I want to just give you the ball and let you run with it here because it's such a long time since we've spoken and there's so much happening right now. I think the first topic on everyone's mind is what Doge is doing and what Elon is doing with that and what Trump is doing in the election of Trump and the tariffs. But let's start with Doge. What are your thoughts on what's going on with Elon and what they've discovered with USAID? And I'll just let you expand on that.
Well, let's start with Musk. I'm the richest guy in the world. I'll tell you what to do. Everybody else, shut your damn mouth. This club's only open to billionaires, so get the hell out of here. Oh, you see all the little freaky boys, the little suckerbergs sucking up? At the Trump party? Yeah, oh, that T-Chai? Oh, all these little gutless little clowns. Hey, I'm a billionaire. Hey, remember they had this thing off with their heads? Wonder why it happened.
Yeah, in the French Revolution.
Yeah. And that's what we're at now. Everything is for the rich. Everything is for the rich. You're just a piece of crap. Shut the hell up and get out of here. So going on to by the way, I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate.
Yeah.
I worked on major political campaigns in Westchester County back in the 70s. Richest county in America. I was the government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. It was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement. Not proud of it, but I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side. I have the picture of me when I picked up Ronald Reagan, put on a brunch with 6-hour board of directors when I was 30 years old. So, of course, I learned what I learned because I was on the other side. The people in government are the lowest pieces of scum crap you could get off the dirt of the street.
Right.
Politicians, gutless little boys and girls, and you call these guys out man to man, they don't know whether to piss or shit. When I quit the Senate, nobody could believe I quit. I said, I'm not going to suck up to this crap. My best friend, Brian Donahue, his wife, Mary Donahue, became the lieutenant governor on the Pataki. I quit. The people in the bureaucratic system are the dumbest people on the planet that can't get a job in the real world that suck into the political system. And they become the most arrogant, not only at the federal government, at the city, at the state, at the national, in a country near you. I can't say the word, but that's what it is.
Yeah, they get a authority complex for sure. So, I was just talking to someone about what's happening with Doge and USAID, and I said that I think it's a big win from the standpoint that it shines a light on something that you just talked about, but the average American wasn't really cognizant of it because they're working their 9-to-5 job. They're sure, okay, George and Gerald are talking about this stuff, small government, libertarian, and the rights to the people and whatnot. But I don't have the mental bandwidth for that because I've got to take my kid to soccer practice. And this weekend we're going to, the lake, and we're going to do a cookout with all these other families. I've got to focus on that. But now that was before what happened. But now you're shining a light on all of this grift, for lack of a better word. And it's really hitting the mainstream media to the point where I think the average Joe and Jane is actually waking up to it. And they're like, wow, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. And I think that people are waking up to it, not just on the right, but even on the left. And so for that reason, I think it's a good thing. But how do you think the average Joe and Jane is taking this, like the man on the street?
Again, they don't know, as we'd say in the Bronx, they don't know dick about shit. Did Taylor Swift get laid last night? I mean, that's what's on their mind.
Yeah, right.
They don't have any idea what's going on. You know, when I was a young guy and just started learning what was going on, and I get upset, Dad, look what's going on. And my father, may rest in peace, said, son, take it easy. People have little minds.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the election. Again, the data of people in the exit polls. The people that voted for Trump, the grand total of 4% concerned about global issues. For Kamala Hilarious, 3%. About global
What was their
issues.
biggest concern, Gerald, in those exit polls? Was it inflation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The bottom line, you know, and again, this, by the way, I listened to that great broadcast you did about inflation and where it's going and what you suspect. And just on to talking about that. Here's the thing. The Federal Reserve, you know, George Carlin, the great comedian, whose brother, by the way, Patrick, used to work for me, may he rest in peace, used to say, it's one big club and you ain't in it.
Right.
The Treasury, look who our former Treasury Secretary was, Janet Yellen, or in Italian, we say Miss Faccia Brut. That's ugly face anyway. What was her former job? The Fed head.
Right.
Again, it's one big club and you ain't in it. Trump is going to do everything he wants to bring interest rates down. And I'll give you the proof. Let's go back to December 2018. It was the worst December in the Dow since the Great Depression, 1931. Trump pushed Powell to lower interest rates, and he did in January 2019.
Right.
So I think Trump is in full control of what the Fed is going to do. And I believe that Trump is going to do everything he can to lower interest rates, to keep pumping up the stock market, because we are also forecasting two things. One other people are talking about now is that the dot-com bust 2.0.
Right.
Again, you go back to your Trends Journal when it was a quarterly. Here it is. Back in 2019. Now it's a weekly. Dot-com this. This is the fall of 1999. We said it would bust by the second quarter of 2000.
That is cool.
Here it is. Here. Dot-com overload will short circuit many high expectations for huge profits in internet commerce, entertainment, and a wide array of dot-com services. Following the holiday season, many of today's high-flying internet stocks, the hottest IPOs and newly emerging IPO wannabes, will have begun their deep descent from their overvalued heights. The same thing has happened with AI. With this DeepSeek, which only happened 2 weeks ago, out of the news. Let's suppose automobiles, I don't know the exact date, but let's just pretend they were invented in 1910.
Right.
All the companies now are going to invest in the first company that invented the automobile. You mean there's not going to be an acceleration and improvement on what they invented? No, that's going to be the only one, and it's NVIDIA. And they're going to be these big chips, and we have to build plants to get these big chips. Hey, wait a minute. We just saw DeepSeek. They got a fraction of the chip at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. The AI trend has just been born. And that's what happened with the dot-com bust. The internet revolution was just born a couple of years before, like 1993, 94. It all started to happen. And it was all this over-speculation in these new companies, pet.com, this one and that one. And it didn't make any sense. The same thing is going on now. There's overvaluation and overinvestment in these dot-coms. So going back to lowering interest rates. If the dot-com, not if, when it happens, And again, you look at the Magnificent Seven, aren't magnificent that much anymore. Look how the Chinese high-tech stocks are rising like crazy as we're speaking right now. Now let's go to the one that no one's talking about. Let's go back to the COVID war that began on January 2020 in China, on Chinese Lunar New Year, the year they're at.
Yeah.
Get back in your house, don't go to work. Your office occupancy rate right now, according to Castle Systems with a K, is about 54.1%. Your office vacancy rate, meaning nobody in the offices in the 10 largest cities in America, according to Moody's, is about 20% vacant. Now let's go back 5 years. Now those leases are coming due, and the new tenants aren't going to be renewing them. There's going to be an office building bust that's going to bring down the banking system that nobody's talking about.
Yeah. We call it shadow inventory.
You got it.
Yeah. So, and then you think that plays into the stock market, bringing down those overvalued stocks like Nvidia and the Mag 7, which aren't so magnificent. And then that plays into Trump lowering interest rates. So that's how we're connecting all those dots.
He's going to do everything he can to keep the markets up because he's also invested in them. Oh, by the way, I had lunch with his brother, Robert, back in 2017. He had a restaurant over here in Wassaic, which is on the other side of the river over here from Kingston. And he told me that when the father died, I think it was like 2002, the father died, he left to Trump's family over $500 million of real estate. So he's a daddy's boy, and he wants to keep making more money. So he's going to do everything he can to keep the equity markets going and the economy up. And again, there's the positives and negatives with Trump. Like he said, oh, great, he's going to cut the military spending by 50%. Great. I launched Occupy Peace well over a decade ago. I bring home the troops from the 800 bases overseas in 70 countries and secure the homeland. So I'm all in favor of that. All in favor of ending the Ukraine war. Totally opposed to making Gaza a Riviera.
Yeah, Gerald, you and I have very similar views on Trump, which I think are commonsensical.
That's it.
And when I'm talking about very similar views, I'm just talking about we're trying to look at things objectively and say, you know what? There's some things that he's doing that are fantastic.
Yep.
And there's some other things that he's doing that I'm not a real big fan of.
No.
And just kind of calling a spade. But it seems like in today's day and age, that is just impossible. Like people cannot do that. Like I'll give you an example. I'll notice in my comments sometimes of a video where I'll just mention something about Trump, and I'll just make a comment about, well, we'll have to see where these tariffs or how they'll play out. And I'll have people in the comments that comment on what I said, the exact same thing that I said. And some people will accuse me of being a Trump fanboy. And then the other people will accuse me of having Trump derangement syndrome for the exact same thing I said. Like not a different video, like not for the exact same thing, just saying that, well, we'll have to see how these tariffs play out. How the hell did we get here as a society?
Again, there's a great quote from Samuel Adams, founding father. It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men.
Right.
When the revolution happened, what did they say? Like 5%, less than 5% were for it. Even after it was over, 50% were against it, the revolution. So it's only that irate, tireless minority that you have to unite. Again, you don't waste your time. I don't waste my time talking to people that don't know. And again, how stupid can you be to call yourself, label yourself? And this is how wide I could think. How about being open-minded? My books, one of them is Trends 2000, international bestseller. Opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession.
So or their bias, said another way, or their bias.
And you have to have an open mind about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not what you like, what you want, what you wish for. It's what is and what will be the implications.
Yeah, right.
And I'm a political atheist from being on the other side. To me, it's a crime syndicate. Again, what's your favorite war? Hey, the banks went bust. Hey, I'm Barack Obama, the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner. According to the Levy Institute of Bard College, they pumped in $29 trillion between the Bush administration and the Obama administration, rather, to bail out the banksters when the things crashed in the dot-com, when the panic of 08 hit.
Right.
29 trillion. They're murderers and thieves. What's your favorite war? So again, this is very important too. No one's talking about this. Again, I've been at this for 45 years, and again, I was in the system. There's never been a better time now for a third party in America, a people's party. The Democrats are going to go nowhere. Nowhere. They got nobody. It's a dead zone. And after Trump gets out of here, again, look at the little freak show. You got little Mike Johnson, Mitch McConnell.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I mean, you can't make this crap up.
Yeah.
It's a freak show. So I'm saying there's never been a better time. The people are ready for it. And that's why. And by the way, I thought Trump would lose. And I go by data, because in the midterm elections, the Republicans didn't do well at all. And we had a 9% inflation rate, and Biden's poll ratings were in the toilet because of the abortion issue. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would be the major. Again, I only went by the data. And then I looked, by the way, at the consumer confidence levels. They were going up month after month after month before the election. So I thought, the hate Trumpers are going to go out and vote, and they didn't. And the blacks didn't vote in big numbers for Kamala Harris. The Latinos didn't vote, and the women didn't vote in the numbers that they usually vote. So I'm just saying how bad the Democrats are and how the opportunity now for a new third party is. But here's the bottom line. Can't do it without dough. Again, it's a billionaires club.
Do you think that is changing? I'm not implying that it's changed all the way, but do you think that's changing for the better because of podcasting? Because I would argue that one of the main reasons Trump won is because he went on Rogan. And that Rogan interview, I think, was huge for him. And not just the Rogan interview, but all the podcasts he was doing, where you could see that, like him or hate him, he's a guy. He's a human being. It humanized him, as opposed to Kamala taking the traditional route. So in the future, maybe in 8 years or so, do you think that we'll be able to have a third party candidate that will have a realistic chance without the huge budget, because of the decentralization of the media and what's happening with the podcasting space?
Yes and no. It's going to be a rough one. You got to have the dough to do it. I mean, look at what did Trump get? 1.2 billion. Oh, we're talking about what's his name, Musk, and I got to see him with his kid on his shoulders. I mean, what are you freaking kidding me with this crap? Mm-hmm. What do you give him? $280 million? Chump change, by the way, for a guy worth what, almost 400 billion? Chump change. Like I'll give him a big tip. Again, it's yes, it can happen. Again, the French Revolution.
So slowly, then all at once type of thing.
Yep.
But who knows when we make that paradigm shift. One thing I really like about Trump is the fact he has broken the glass ceiling, for lack of a better way to say it. And what I mean by that is I've got a lot of friends, a lot of entrepreneurs that are incredibly successful, libertarians, very ethical, have a high degree of integrity. These are the people that you want running for office.
Yep.
And they saw what Trump did. And now all of a sudden they're like, well, hey, if he can do it, maybe I can do it as well. And they're really considering running for politics in the next, let's just say 5 years, where before, if Trump would not have won or been as successful as he had been politically, they probably wouldn't have even considered it. So I think that in and of itself is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, it is. You're 100% right. And again, if the same gangs stayed in place, there would have been more of the same Stupid
Right.
crap with this DEI stuff. Yeah, get rid of this stuff. I don't care
Yeah.
what you want to do. I could care less. I don't want to hear about this crap.
Yeah. So what, I guess if you had to list the top 3 things that you like about what Trump has done, and then the top 3 things that you don't like, where, how would you?
I wouldn't say 3 things I don't like. I agree. By the way, I agree with tariffs.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because again, and he talks about it, McKinley, we didn't have income tax before. The money came in tariffs.
Okay.
And I'm up here in Kingston, New York. You had Gant shirt factories. There were shirt factories all over. I have these dishes from my aunt who passed away. Syracuse, China, made in Syracuse, New York. We had manufacturing. There were no such thing as Rust Belts. Bring the made in America. And now I'm going to tell you why I know it works. Again, tracking trends, we say all things are connected. Let's go back to the Ukraine war. Began on February 24th, 2022. A week or 2 later, Biden put sanctions on Russia. Quote, Putin's going to pay the price. We said, no, he's not. We said Russia has all of the human and natural resources they need to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining. They're very advanced. All those companies that left, the McDonald's, the Starbucks, the Russian people took them over. And GDP went up. It went down first, and then it went up more than most of the countries in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, I am totally opposed to globalization. And that was brought to us by, again, to show you how much I couldn't stand them back then and can't stand them now. A little piece of crap that every time he got caught with his pants down, it was bombs away over Baghdad. Little Billy Clinton. There's a T-shirt I got done when he was running for president back in 1992. All right, so now this is a scumbag that gave us NAFTA. Get that manufacturing out of America and bring it to Mexico to get cheap labor. Bring China into the World Trade Organization. Go over there, bring them all the manufacturing and high tech, from heavy industry to high tech that they never had. So you can make more money and suck the jobs out of here. Oh, and did away with the Glass-Steagall Act, and one after another, these little scumbag presidents did away with the Robinson-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act, Glass-Steagall Act, one after another, shipped our jobs overseas. Now you want a job? Get one at Target. No. I think I'll work at Walmart. Well, I think Lowe's would be a lot better. When I was a young man, there were hardware stores, grocery stores, drug stores, shoe stores, stationery stores. Now they're all chains. Everything's a chain. So going back to positive on Trump with tariffs, made in America. We have all the human and natural resources we need to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient. But bring in that great prosciutto from Italy, that fine French wine, but I don't need all these other products. By the way, I'm same age as Trump, by the way. Grew up during the Vietnam War. Every day, by the way, they're going to get me. I beat the draft. I did everything I could. And by the way, I was stupid enough to believe in the war as a young kid, but I didn't want to get my brains blown out. Those dirty commies, if we don't stop them, those dominoes will keep falling. And before you know it, all of Asia will be taken over. Oh, those lousy Vietnamese commies? You mean the number 2 country that we import furniture from, clothing from, and shoes from? The same commie country? Oh, the ones that you killed over 3 million people, 58,000 American kids, and about 250,000 wounded? Yeah, but we're doing business with them, so shut the hell up. Oh, and Bill Clinton, you little draft-dodging bastard, same age as me. Oh, you brought the Chinese commies are okay. Yeah, I get paid $300,000 an hour to bullshit to the Goldman Sachs gang. I'm a little slime ball from Arkansas, but look at all the money I got for selling America out. So shut the hell up, all right?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I do not like tariffs from an economic standpoint, but I don't want to get into that. I will say, in order for tariffs to do what you're talking about, bringing jobs back, bringing manufacturing back, the only way that's possible is if we reduce regulations and red tape and
Absolutely.
bureaucracy, because at the end of the day, the politicians aren't going to build the shoe factories. They're not going to build the widget factory. It's going to be entrepreneurs. And unless you reduce the shackles that are tying them down right now, if you eliminate those, they're not going to be able to produce, or they're not even going to be willing to set up a $1 billion factory here, because they don't know what's going to happen after Trump. As an example, there's too many unknowns. And even if you put a 25% tariff against who they're competing with, let's just say China, that might not be enough when you consider all of the other factors. You have to set a platform for them to succeed, and to where they can leverage the skill sets they have to create those jobs, to create those widgets, to create those goods and services that we can make here in America. As an example, you look at Argentina. And Argentina had all these tariffs, and they had reverse tariffs. I mean, they had all these taxes. Why was there not just a manufacturing renaissance there? It's because they had stifling amounts of regulations. So you've got to, that's kind of the point I try to make, is that if you want to have those benefits, you've got to start with the bureaucracy.
I agree 100%. And again, it's not a simple issue. And the other
Yeah.
thing too is, if you're going to give us tariffs, get rid of the income tax, because we didn't have income tax when we had tariffs. And I'm
Well,
tired of
that's,
paying these income taxes. And number two, you're making a very good point about the bureaucracy. It was just an article I just read about Michelin coming over to America. They want to get out of Europe because of the bureaucracy. But here's the downside. Yes, have manufacturing in America, but the companies that are coming over here are foreign countries.
are foreign companies.
Foreign countries. Thank
Yeah.
you. Foreign companies that are coming over here, and they're paying crap.
Yeah.
They're paying crap wages. That's the other side of it you have to look at. Again, it's not a clear issue.
Yeah.
And I agree with 100% of what you said.
Yeah,
But I'm
there's
just saying,
always
on
costs
the
and
overall
benefits.
side, and
There's
looking at
always,
how the trend got here, they sold us out. They sold
yeah,
this country out. There were no such thing as rust belts,
yeah, yeah. And again, back then you had fewer regulations that
Oh,
incentivized the manufacturing to stay here. At the end of the day, people have to realize that every single good coming from overseas has a tariff. It's called transportation costs, right? That in and of itself is a incentive to make things in the United States. But we still had all those jobs that left, and you have to kind of scratch your head and say why. And another thing with Europe, what's the difference between the United States and Europe? Why is their economy so stagnant? Why are they basically in a recession? And the United States, although I wouldn't say the economy is great, it's a heck of a lot better than what we're seeing over there. And what it boils down to is you can't start a business. You can't fire an employee. You can't do anything. And therefore, of course, you're not going to have any goods and services that are being produced. So I think that we need to look at, the delta between the United States and Europe, say why, and then look at what we do well. And then we need to double down on that.
I agree.
Before.
I agree. Listen, as an Italian in America, go to Italy. I spent a lot of time there. It's one of the worst bureaucratic
Oh, yeah.
crap holes in Europe.
Yeah. But
You
man,
can't
they've got good food.
don't do this, don't do that, can't do this, can't do that. It's terrible, terrible.
Yeah,
And again, the
absolutely.
bureaucrats, I call them bureaucrats. That's who they are. They're lousy little pieces of scum. They can't get a job in the real world to become maniacs and imposing their demands on you.
Yeah. And I think, again, one of the great things about Doge is you've been saying this, Gerald, for decades. And obviously you've been right. You've been spot on. And in fact, I think the flashlight or the spotlight that's being shown on this grift with USAID proves that Gerald Celente is right. And so I just hope that the average American can see what you see, and maybe not 99% of them, but at least an additional 5%. And we can only hope, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, there's never been a better time for a new third party, a people's party.
So on that note, what do you think of RFK?
Again, I had peace rallies here, and not this year, but last year, I had Dennis Kucinich as one of the speakers, who was his campaign manager.
Okay.
And I spoke to RFK a couple of times. And I was totally supportive of him. Went down to Philadelphia. They invited me when he ran as an independent. I donated the most amount of money an individual could donate. It's like 6,600 or something. And I got it all back. Totally support him on his, if you don't want to get the jab, don't get it, and this and that. And by the way, just to show you that's not bullshit, when I say I support him about the health issues,
Yeah.
this is one of the first books I worked on back in 1980s when nobody was talking about it, Natural Healing.
Right.
It was a Warner book. But I'm totally opposed to his support of the genocide in Israel. So that's how I backed off, and Kucinich quit. He was no longer the campaign manager. So I'm glad that he's in the position he's in the government.
Yeah.
So just to make it clear, again, I only look at the facts of how I believe it, not telling anybody else how to believe it. I'm totally, totally opposed to my money going to kill other people. What if Biden just sent Trump sent another almost $8 billion worth of our money to Israel to keep these wars going, and 2,000-pound bombs. So I'm totally opposed to that stuff. But again, look at the other things that I like. And Kennedy, I totally agree with him on the health issues. Totally agree with it. Totally. I believe in natural healing. And yet, by the way, with the whole COVID war, not one word about getting healthy. And again, the data, we only looked at data in the Trends Journal. Oh, the people who were dying of COVID had 2.6 pre-existing comorbidities. Right. Oh, the first country to lock down after China was Italy, where the average age of the people dying was 81 years old.
Yeah.
And when it first hit America, where did it hit? Oh, Kirkland, Washington. What's a Kirkland, Washington? Oh, that's some little city up here in Washington State at a nursing home. Oh, the people in the nursing home, they're there to get better. They're ready to die, all right? So again, nobody talked about natural healing, about health, about the dangers of they call them big pharma. I call them drug dealers, what they're doing. So I'm totally supportive of Kennedy on that side.
I think the main takeaway here for the viewer is just to look at someone like yourself that has all of this life experience and notice how he is forming his opinion based on principles. And what that allows him to do is look objectively at a person and say, yes, I like this, I don't like that. And I think that is a healthy approach. And I just want to encourage the viewer to try to take the same approach in your own life when you're looking at these very important issues and people who are in a position of power. You've got to have a North Star. That's one thing that I really liked so much about Ron Paul, is I didn't agree with him on every single issue,
right,
but I knew that he was going to be forming an opinion or coming to a conclusion on how to proceed based on that North Star. And that's what drove him, where, obviously the people that were around him, they had no ethical backbone. They had no guiding principles other than just money. Other than just grift and shilling and trying to scam the taxpayer for as much money as they possibly could. How did you do that? Did you have to learn that, Gerald? Did that come naturally for you? Is that something that you've just been able to fine tune with wisdom and experience? How did you come to that?
It's learning. By the way, Ron Paul is the last person I voted for in 2012, last president I voted for. And I was fortunate to speak at one of his events. It's a learning process. I'll never forget when I was a kid, I was about 17 years old. And my father, may he rest in peace, reading dinner. And he looks at me, he said, son, they say that youth is wasted on the young. He took a couple more bites and he said, they were talking about you. I keep learning. Again, I had a different mindset. I tell you, I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement. All I wanted to do is make money, and I like chicks too. But anyway, it's another story. By the way, my sister just passed away last year. Opened up the second topless go-go lounge in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Lounge. So anyway, I got another side of my life. And I was a bartender there, 22 years old. She got choo-choo eyeballs. She got hair down below knees. Anyway, it's a learning process. And I have to tell you, I read about 6 hours a day. So talking about the Israel war, about being a trend forecaster, I subscribe to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. I want to hear what they have to say. I go to the Times of Israel. I go to Jerusalem Post. Oh, I go to IRNA, ISNA, Tehran Times, Press TV. I want to hear what the Iranians have to say.
Right.
Oh, I go to Arab News. I go to Al Jazeera. Oh, yeah, I want to hear what the Arabs have to say. I go to DW. I go to Euronews. I want to hear what the Europeans have to say. So we cover the world in looking at things. And then we say, this is what they're saying. This is our analysis. And this is where we see it going. So it's a learning process. You can't stop learning. And another thing about it is about being yourself. And then again, I'm blessed. I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, right after World War II. The spirits at the height of America, 1946, right after the war. And by the way, the greatest music. It's not, my generation never heard it. My older brothers and sisters, they used it only on black radio stations from 1946 to 1952. Oh, I'm the first of the baby boom. Why they call it a baby boom? Rather than getting your brains blown out, you want to screw your brains out.
I'll take the latter.
Right. All these songs are about getting high, getting laid, and getting drunk. But anyway, growing up during that time, and I'm wild as can be, my father would yell at me, say, little bastard, you think I'm telling you what I'm telling you because I want you to be like me? I want you to become yourself. And that's the way I see it being. Become yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
To think into a little box because you're a member of this or a member of that, grow up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it sounds like he taught you how to think as opposed to what to think.
And you're on your own. I'm so blessed that what they left, they didn't leave me any money. They left me everything of who I am. And I thank them every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. Let's go back to Trump. And you talked about a couple things that you like about him. What do you not like about him, other than the fact that he just kind of came from money and and is one of these billionaires trying to throw his power around?
I don't like, all the billionaire club he brought in.
Okay.
And how we the people are excluded.
Okay.
It's disgusting to me. And is again, and when it's particularly his stance on Israel, I'm totally opposed to it. And that's really, as off the top of my mind, those are the two issues that.
Okay.
And, save Ukraine. Yeah, he's going to do something with the Ukraine war, but don't bullshit me and say, "Hey, you vote for me, I'm going to end this war in 24 hours."
Yeah.
Hey, got sown. 24 hours is a long time ago. It's a month ago, almost. Oh, yeah. It's going to be 100 days. Oh, when I get elected, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on China, on Canada and Mexico. I got elected. You didn't put them on. Well, I'm going to do it February 1st. Hey, February 1st came along. He did it. February 3rd came along. He took them off. So do what you say you're going to do and don't give me the story. And by the way, it's who he is. when he ran for president in 2016, the Trends Journal called him a winner, by the way, in May of 2016, when everybody said he was going to lose. We said he was going to win because people were looking for a new direction, which goes back to why I'm saying it's now time for a new third party. But anyway, I took out the trademark presidential reality show. This guy's a reality show champion. Mm-hmm. He's still doing a reality show. He plays all these games, says all these things, and you don't know where he's coming from. There are people that agree with it. I disagree with that. Yeah. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I don't want to play the game.
Yeah, I think the rebuttal you'd get is I don't think anybody likes that, but I think his supporters would say, well, he's doing that because he has to, because it's a negotiating tactic, and this is the only way to get things done.
That's to me. That's believing in your religion rather than the facts. That's not the way I talk about the facts. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to BS you. I'm not doing it. Yes, I'll do that. That sounds good to me. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But don't lie to me and tell me you're going to end this thing in 24 hours and that you're not yet. Oh, then when you got elected, you said the war would end before you took office. Oh, and then let's go back again. He spoke at the Davos gang of January 23rd. These interest rates are way too high. I'm going to lower them. They have no right keeping them this high. And then what happened? Next week, they kept interest rates where they are, the Fed. And what he said? They did the right thing by keeping interest rates where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so don't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Yeah. I want you on one side.
Yeah, there's so many inconsistencies with Trump. I mean, we could go on all day just about that. I always get a kick out of the one where he wants the strong dollar. He wants the dollar to remain the global reserve currency, and he's basically threatening countries with a 100% tariff who use the dollar less moving forward. He's done that on several tweets, but yet at the same time, he's saying that he is the crypto president, which if you sit back and think about that, you're like, wait a minute, the major objective of crypto, like Bitcoin as an example, is to dethrone the dollar. It's to make people use the dollar less. So you're threatening people for using the dollar less, but then you're encouraging people to build technology that will incentivize people to use the dollar less. So but again, I think the rebuttal you're going to get as well, he has to do that. It's a negotiating tactic, and that may sit okay with people, but obviously with Gerald Celente, it doesn't sit well.
Yeah. And again, you look at when he was president, how anti-crypto he was. Well, look how much money he got from the crypto club.
Yeah.
As you say, money talks, bullshit walks.
Yeah. So you're not a big fan of Trump coin or Melania coin?
Yeah.
I knew that would trigger you.
It's again, he's in it for himself. As I said, he's a money junkie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is another story. I couldn't stand what he did. I'm a New York City guy. What he did to the west side of New York when he built Trump Towers off the West Side Drive. There were these beautiful, beautiful Art Deco buildings overlooking the Hudson River. And he put up this whole stream of ugly, crappy buildings right along the West Side Drive. And they're like the 80s, 1980s. And it just destroyed the whole view of the thing. But anyway, he's into it for himself. And
what do you think about Elon being supportive of Ron Paul auditing the Fed? Do you think this is just him talking, or do you think there's some meat behind the sizzle?
It could be. If it's great if he does it. But again, I find it disgusting that only the billionaires have a word out there.
Yeah.
And we don't. We are silenced. We're silenced. And I find it totally disgusting. Again, look at all the billionaires that he's brought into his office, and when he had his inauguration, there's one after another. Bezos, one after another. We're just nobodies.
Yeah. How do you think we change that?
New third party, a people's party,
Mhm.
a people's party.
So, and since you've got some experience with politics, if you knew what you knew now, and and you could just take that wisdom and experience and your objectives and go back to when you were 30 years old, what would you do with that? Like, would you create another party? Would you create a podcast, a YouTube channel to talk about another party? Would you do support rallies for this? How would you build that grassroots kind of push, and so people knew about this and would get behind it? Very similar to what Ron Paul did.
Yeah, what you need to do is you have to unite everybody that's on that side. So you get all those people that are on that side and you try to unite them under one umbrella.
On the independent side.
Yep.
Okay.
And you do it with the podcast. So again, remember when I said trends are born, they grow, mature, reach old age, and die. And I talked about the .com bust. You're younger than me, but people my age remember, and others, when the internet revolution began, you had the discs you put in there. You couldn't watch what we're doing now.
Yeah, right.
You couldn't even watch a movie or anything. The thing moved like that when you saw something. And now it's a whole different world. Oh, by the way, I got banned on TikTok.
Jeez.
And you know why? For forecasting the truth. They put a clip up of me doing a podcast where I said Ukraine is going to do everything they can to keep this war going, such as bombing a nuclear power plant. That's all I said. Oh, what happened last week? They said Chernobyl, a power was almost bombed, and Ukraine's blaming it on Russia, and Russia's blaming it on Ukraine. I got banned for saying that. So you're going back to social media. If they don't want you there, you're gone. You're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened during the COVID thing. If you came out against the vaccinations, you're gone. You're out. Again, it's one big club and you ain't in it. Again, it's going to take money.
Yeah, Gerald.
Again, if you had the power behind you and you started raising it, the people would donate to it.
Do you think it needs to be something like Ross Perot? Wasn't he an independent? I mean, I should know this, but
see this book? Trend Tracking, far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine.
Yeah.
I wrote that in 1989, and I'd forecast a new third party, someone like Ross Perot.
Huh. You used his name specifically?
It's right here.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I have a photograph. I'll show it to you later. We go off the air, of me and John Connolly. You know who John Connolly was? John Connolly was the governor of Texas that took the bullet in the back sitting in front of JFK. You watch the video, he goes flying over and his wife Nellie throws herself on top of him. He wanted to meet me 2 weeks before the 92 election because I had forecast that. I have a photograph of me, him, and his wife in front of the book depository. It's their first time back since the assassination. I'm making a long story short. We're going back into the Anatole Hotel. He said, I read your book, Trend Tracking. He said, a fine piece of work. And he said, I know your heart's in the right place. Remember, this is the governor, Democratic governor of Texas, that took the bullet in the back sitting in front of Kennedy. So I know your heart's in the right place. He said, but you don't have a clue what's going on. And neither do the American people.
Right.
Because if they did, there'd be a revolution in this country. He wasn't only the Democratic governor of Texas. He became the Republican Treasury Secretary under Richard Nixon that took us off the gold standard.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, one of your top trends for 2024 was 2024 would be a golden year for gold. Gold prices went up 25% last year. And as we're speaking, they're up 7% this year. And we see it as another golden year for gold. But going back to Connolly, it's a crime syndicate that the government is. Mm-hmm. The people in there are only interested about themselves, most of them. There are a few good ones, like Thomas Massey.
Yeah.
He's like the only guy like in all of Congress, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so but it'll take a Ross Perot, you think?
Yep.
Yeah, because he made I don't remember because I wasn't paying attention to any of this stuff back then. I was just barely in high school. But how much he made waves, didn't he, Ross Perot, when he ran?
I
How
can
much
tell
of
you
the
what
vote
happened.
did he get?
I can tell you what happened. Uh, at that, when I went there, there was another guy by the name of Pat Cadell who passed away. Pat Cadell was a top pollster, and I was in contact with all these people back in the day. Perot was skyrocketing in the polls.
Mhm.
Cadell never saw anything like it. He ended up with almost 20% of the vote. Here's what happened. That Sunday, 2 weeks before the election, now we're up in Connolly's, in the suite up there. And myself, a woman by the name of Rama Fox. Rama Fox was Larry King's girlfriend. It was a guy by the name of John J. Hooker who got Ross Perot on Larry King when that was a big show to first announce. And John J. Hooker, by the way, his great-great-great-great-grandfather was General Hooker, who brought the chicks around to screw the guys during the Civil War, and that's how they got the name Hooker. You could look that way.
Wow.
You can't make this
I was going to
up.
say appropriate last name, but
Yeah.
I was putting the cart before the horse.
So we're watching Perot on 60 Minutes. I think it was Leslie Stahl or one of them. And she said, why weren't you campaigning during the summer? Why did you get off the campaign trail for so long? Words to that effect. And he goes, well, my daughter was getting married and I didn't want anything to interfere with the marriage. And my heart sunk like that. I said, that he's finished. He's finished. He destroyed himself. I was supposed to stay over, back in those days in the 90s. It was not like travel now. I was going to stay over another night. I took a flight out of Dallas and came back to New York. I didn't want to stay anymore. He destroyed his own campaign. The people were ready for it. The people were ready for it. Again, going back to these, people have no idea about this. We talked about NAFTA before. George Bush Sr. was trying to push that through, couldn't get it through. Reagan couldn't get it through. Clinton got it through. He became the new Democratic Party, became the old Republican Party. And that's why I'm saying we need a new Democratic Party. But going back to Ross Perot, he destroyed his campaign.
Right.
People were, Clinton was a jerk. You look at him, he was a nobody. And people were fed up with Bush Sr., and he had three-way race, and that's why he won.
Why do you think, like going back to principles, why do you think it wouldn't work for someone with the principles of an independent to just run as a Republican or a Democrat? Do you think that they're just too far away from the base to get the votes? Or you see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, whether you have a D in front of your name or an R, it really doesn't matter. It's what you believe in, and it's how you vote, and it's the policies that you favor. So, Ron Paul being a Democrat, who cares? It's still Ron Paul at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, because you look at Thomas Massey. They give no credit at all. He's right there. He speaks our language in so many different ways. I support so much of what he says. He goes nowhere. He goes nowhere.
Okay. So you just think you'd have to be an independent.
How can you have a little boy of nothing like Mike Johnson, all right, as a leader? You got to suck up into the system to get into it.
Yeah.
It has to be a new third party. Or again, if a woman came in with you need money power to get the name out.
Yeah. And for those younger people who don't know who Ross Perot was, he was a billionaire.
Yeah.
At the time, he was a billionaire. So he had the dough. as Gerald would say.
That's right.
Gerald, tell us more about your journal. I mean, you've been doing it for decades now, and you know what I love? It's so cool that you showed the issue from 1999, because one thing that I love doing for my videos is going back to the archive with the Wall Street Journal. And so, like, as an example, when interest rates on the 10-year Treasury yield actually went up during 2008, most people don't remember that, but they went up from March to July by 100 basis points. And the CPI went from 3.5 to 5.6 in July. And so I like to go back to July of 2008 as an example. When the CPI print came out at 5.6, you talk about red hot, that was red hot. And I like to read what the Wall Street Journal was saying. And sure enough, what they were saying is that the Fed cut rates too much, that we're going right back into the 1970s. And by the end of 2008, the Fed should start hiking rates. And we know that that movie didn't really end that way. It did the complete opposite. But it's just so valuable to have these things, to have the archives, and then read what people like yourself are saying that have been neck deep in this stuff for quite literally, I mean, decades, going all the way back to the 1970s. So how can people find out more about what you do?
Go to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. And, the magazine's almost 200 pages a week, but we cover anything from geopolitics, economics, high-tech science, technocracy, on and on and on. And we're giving people everything we can. It's the grand total, by the way, of $2.56 a week. The Wall Street Journal's $5 a day. The New York Times, they call themselves the paper record. I call it the toilet paper record, $4 a day. And yeah. I got to tell you, and this is I'm not kidding. There are days and days where we don't get one trend-worthy article from the Wall Street Journal that we need data. Again, like I was saying, I was watching you, and by the way, those podcasts you're doing are great. The one you did about interest rates and what's going on, and what you were just talking about, I watched it. And again, when they showed the newspapers, they showed the Wall Street Journal that thick. Yeah, one time it was. Now it's this thick. Yeah. They're firing people. There's no journalism anymore. Yeah. It's gone.
It's shrinkflation. It's shrinkflation in the newspaper. It's getting smaller and the price is going up.
Yeah. So we're giving people everything we can to help them prepare, prevail, and prosper. I've been at this for 45 years. Never, ever, ever, ever have I seen such a time that we're going into, because one of our top trends this year, wild card.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because when people ask me my predictions or my base case, for a lot of different things for 2025, I say it's all about the unknown. Yep. I have never seen more uncertainty in just my view outside of COVID. March 2020, obviously there's more uncertainty, but I have no idea what's going to happen. I just know there's never going to be a dull moment, and I don't know that that's a good thing.
Well, like you were saying, I mean, look at the European economy. Yeah. Germany's in a recession.
How about the Chinese economy, Gerald?
Yeah. Again, very important about the Chinese economy. Again, Clinton brought them in. They officially came into the World Trade Organization 2 weeks after 9/11. You look at China's GDP from 1970 to 2001. Come into straight up. With every boom, there's a bust. And you had the data, you were talking about the housing crisis they have over there. It was going to bust anyway. They made a bad situation worse by launching the COVID war and 3 years of zero COVID policy.
Terrible.
It destroyed the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people.
Yep.
And no one, again, we're talking about the banks going bust when the office buildings go bust. I'm a New Yorker, ain't the same city anymore since COVID, whole different trip. The COVID war has destroyed the lives and livelihoods of billions of people across the planet.
Yep.
Everything was artificially propped up with zero and negative interest rates and trillions of dollars of fake money backed by nothing and printed on nothing. And now those days are over. And like you were talking about Europe, their economy, China's economy, India's economy is going down from where it was. They're lowering interest rates.
Canada as well.
Canada. Oh, so this is serious what's going on. The wild cards are going to be played out. And my greatest concern, again, we're writing about it, and it's not my language. Again, we go to the Israeli press, Iranian press. I'm concerned about Israel ramping up war with Iran. Because if that happens, you're going to see oil prices spike. What is around? Brent crude's right around $74 a barrel. That'll go to about $120, $130 a barrel. That'll crash the economy.
That's right. That's right.
And there's a thing called a Samson option. SAMSON. If Israel's losing, they go nuclear. You don't have to be good at math to figure this out. There are 91 million Iranians, 7 million Israelis, 9 million in the country, but 20% of them are Arab. 91 million against 7 million. And Iran is very advanced scientifically, technologically, and militarily. And they're playing it down. They're saying that Israel defeated Edom when they bombed them the last time. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Again, this is serious. So you got to look at these things. And so what we're saying to people, prepare for the worst. Because if the worst doesn't happen and you're prepared for it, you lose nothing.
Yeah,
but if the worst happens and you're not prepared, you could lose everything. So this is really a time to know what's going on and do the best you can to prepare for it.
Yeah, fantastic, Gerald. I sure appreciate your time, buddy. It's just a pleasure. I can't wait. We got to hang out there at that Bitcoin deal in Phoenix. I don't know if that was 2021 or something like that. So I'm sure we'll get to hang out again soon. And I can't wait. I
Me
can't
too.
wait.
Yeah, I miss seeing you, man. So great to see you. Yeah. And thank you for all that you do. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, I'd like to personally invite each and every one of you to attend this year's Rebel Capitalist Live. This is the incredible conference I put on annually that helps you build a bulletproof portfolio. It helps you increase your personal freedom and liberty, and also it helps you increase the size of your network. In other words, you get to meet a lot of like-minded individuals, fellow Rebel capitalists. It's in Orlando, May 23rd through the 25th. Past speakers have included people like Robert Kiyosaki, Ron Paul, Peter Schiff, Mike Maloney, Lynn Alden, just to name a few. So to get your tickets ASAP and to find out who is speaking at this year's Rebel Capitalist Live, you can check it out at rebelcapitalistlive.com. And just a little quick insider information, if you get your tickets sooner than later, you can get a discount because as we get closer and closer to the event, the tickets go up in price. So don't wait. Go to rebelcapitalistlive.com right now and get your tickets. And I will see you in Orlando, May 23rd through the 25th.